Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to design this model rocket. This video I'd say is about difficulty level 2 out of 10. If you don't already know how to use Onshape, I recommend going and learning how to use it before watching this video. Remember, I make these videos fast-paced on purpose, so that way you can learn at your own pace. Remember to pause the video whenever you need to. Okay, you ready? The first thing you need to do is create a new document. Select Create, Document, name this Rocket. Select Create Public Document. For the main body of the rocket, we're going to use a revolve, so we'd be sketching the side profile of the rocket. We'll worry about the fins later. So to make the sketch for the revolve, we're going to need to use the front plane. So go to your feature tree and hide the top and right planes. Create a sketch, select the front plane. Right-click it, and select View Normal To. Now you're looking directly at the front plane. Because we're making a revolve, we only have to design half of the rocket in the sketch. The first thing I like to do when making a sketch that's going to be revolved is make the revolve axis. Go to the toolbar on top, select the line tool, hover the mouse over the origin. When it is highlighted yellow and has the square around it, left click once, move the mouse up, make sure the line is getting snapped to vertical, left click again, and then deactivate the line tool. You should have one black line connected to the origin at the bottom, but the top point of the line should be blue, showing that we can drag it up and down, but the rest of the line is black, so we can't move it in any other way. Reactivate the line tool, hover over the origin, left click, pull the line sideways, make sure it is being snapped to the horizontal position. Left click, make another line that is vertical, make sure it is shorter than the other vertical line. Left click, move the mouse away from the previous point. When you move the mouse back onto that point and then leave, it converts it into a tangent arc. Hover the mouse over the top point of the first line until there's a yellow square around it. Left click once, deactivate the tangent arc tool. This is all the lines we're going to need for this sketch of the rocket. We just need to add some dimensions. For the first dimension, let's set the height of the rocket, which will be this center line right here. Activate the dimension tool, hover over the center line, left click once, move the mouse over, click again to place your number, type in 100 millimeters. The next dimension we're going to give is how wide the rocket is. Because this is a revolve and we only are designing half the rocket, this is actually going to be half the overall width of the rocket, minus the fins of course. So the dimension tool is still active, click the bottom line, place the dimension, and type in 7. Click enter. The last dimension we need to add is the height of this other line. Hover the mouse over it, click once, move over, place the number, and type 65. This is all we need for the sketch. Go to Sketch 1 dialog box and click Check. We can now revolve the rocket. Go to the toolbar, select the Revolve tool. In the Revolve dialog box, make sure it's set to Solid, New, and then Faces and Sketch Regions to revolve. Select this sketch region here. Next, it wants us to select a revolve axis, so click on this box. When it's highlighted blue, that means you can select the axis. That would be this line right here. It's the longest one and the one connected to the origin. I'm going to right click to change the camera angle just so I can see it a little bit better. This looks good. In the Revolve dialog box, click Check. Now we need to make the fins. Create a sketch on the front plane. Right-click it and select View Normal To. Select the line tool. Start drawing the first line from the origin. When you're hovering over it, it's highlighted yellow, and there's that yellow box around it. That means it's going to be fully constrained to the origin. Left-click, move the line over, making sure it's snapping to the horizontal position. Left click again, draw another line, making sure it's snapping to the vertical position. Left click. The next line will be the angle that the fin has. Before you click anywhere, move the mouse down, hover over the origin for a few seconds, and then as you move it up, this dotted line will show up, showing that you're hovering exactly over the origin. Move it up so it's at roughly a 45-degree angle. Left click once, move the mouse down, For the last line, reconnect it to the origin. You can now deactivate the line tool. Now let's give it some dimensions. Activate the dimension tool. We'll start with the bottom line. Dimension this to 20 millimeters. Next, we'll do this side line right here. Dimension this to 5 millimeters. And the last one is the center line right here. Click once. We'll dimension this one to 30 millimeters. If you want to change the look of your rocket, go ahead, change the numbers to whatever you like. When you are done, in the sketch dialog box, click check. To get a better view of what's going on, I'm going to click on this corner of the view cube. This gives us a trimetric view. We don't need the front plane anymore, so I'm going to hide it. Now let's extrude our fin. Select the extrude tool. In the extrude dialog box, make sure it's set to solid, then add, and then for faces and sketch regions to extrude, select this sketch region right here. I'm going to right click to move the camera angle to get a better view of what's going on. This is not what we want the fin to look like. We want it to be much thinner, but also centered. So to make it centered, go back to the extrude dialog box and find the symmetric option. Click on that. Notice that it's extruding an equal distance from both sides of the sketch. Set the depth to 0.8. When you're 3D printing stuff, generally you don't want to ever make walls thinner than 0.8. Click check. Reset to the trimetric view. Okay, you might have noticed a problem. Our rocket only has one fin. So to give it more fins, we can select the circular pattern tool. You may have to click a drop-down menu to find it. In the circular pattern dialog box, the first option right now says part pattern. Click on this drop-down menu and we'll change it to feature pattern. This will make it so it's making a pattern of the feature we made, which was the extrude making this fin. So now it wants us to select features to pattern. So go to your feature tree and select this extrude. You should notice that down here, this fin is highlighted in orange or yellow. Next, it wants us to select the axis of the pattern. Click on this box so it's highlighted blue, and hover the mouse over the rocket. Because it's a cylinder, it will let us use this for the axis of the pattern. You can also click on this circle right here, or the bottom one. Here we have a preview of what it's going to look like, but the other fins are red. That means there's something wrong. What we want to do is select the box, reapply features. Now it's going to reapply adding these fins onto the rocket. Change the instance count to whatever number of fins you want. Yeah, that's a little too many. I'm going to do 4. Click check. Good job, you just made a rocket. Okay, let's name our part. Go to the parts menu, right click on part 1, and select rename. We will call this rocket. To export this model for 3D printing, over in the parts menu, right click rocket and select export. A whole bunch of options will show up. The first thing you want to do is change this name. The next thing is format. Make sure this is STL. Make sure export model's y-axis up is unchecked. Want the STL format to be binary. Want the units to be millimeter. Resolution, I always do fine. And then options, I just leave this at download. After you change these settings, it should remember everything and you won't have to do it again. Select export. The STL file will be downloaded to your computer. In Cura, the slicer program, this is the program that tells the 3D printer how to print. So in the top left corner, there's a file option. Click on that. The file explorer will be opened up. Select rocket. Click open. And it should automatically be placed in the middle of the build plate. I used all my standard print settings, except infill, I turn this to 0 because it doesn't need any. To slice it, select slice. You can select preview. Now we have a preview of what the 3D printed model will look like. Of course, it's not going to be red like shown here. It's going to be whatever color I decide to put in the printer. To put this on the 3D printer, put an SD card in the computer. This button will change and say save to removable drive. When it does, click on that. This design will be downloaded to the SD card. Put the card in the printer and hit go. Now you should have a complete rocket model and you should know how to 3D print it. Good job.